Yo, what's good? What's good? Welcome to the Spiel Sports Talk Show. We are chilling here tonight, bringing you another episode, the first episode of season 7, starting off 2026, following up season 6. Welcome to season 7. I'm chilling with
Six,
our
7.
6-7.
esteemed host of panelists. We've got Sal on the mic. We've also got Quai on the mic coming from Arizona and Pittsburgh, respectively. I'm your boy Randy, aka Arlo, coming from New Jersey right now. And yeah, I'll go ahead and just kick off our first topic of the night. Um, really just giving my eulogy to the 2025 Washington Commanders regular season. Um, just highlighting the game against Philadelphia. We were just reviewing some of the highlights. But for me, I think just speaking about that game strictly first, it really felt like when a college team does like their spring scrimmage, and it's like the the first string versus the second
Yep.
string, and or almost like preseason, but like with a little bit more stakes as terms of guys going for incentives at the end of the season to get paid, and then on top of that, guys literally fighting for spots on the roster next year and what they're able to deliver on. So like literally some folks are fighting for a bigger contract or just a spot on the team next year, showing that they can be available. We've had a terrible season. There's gonna be fresh faces brought in. We're looking to rebuild and revamp. But getting into the game, just I thought it was still a good competitive showing, but obviously neither team brought out their biggest guns. But again, still just a back and forth NFC East rivalry game. I did mention that I thought that we would take one of the two games against the Eagles in the last 3 weeks, and it turns out that this was the one after losing the first one. But I think I wish the Eagles luck in the playoffs, but not too much luck. I'm definitely gonna be rooting for another team from the NFC to represent them. And if they somehow make it out of the NFC, I'm rooting for the team for the AFC to knock them off the perch. Now, speaking about the Washington Commanders season at large, aside from that game, definitely disappointing. And I've probably been a broken record for the last 4 to 5 shows of my disappointment with their season and where we've truly ended up. Um, but I will point out some positives before I get back into the negatives. A positive for me was Terry McLaurin finding his footing, getting healthy late season. Um, whenever you pay a guy as much as we did pay Terry, which was well deserved, and I think we had him for cheap for years, so it was just due. But you worry if there's going to be a fall off, if there's also if you're dealing with injury, whether you got paid or not, because there could be a fall off. But the fact that we did pay him means that we are committed for at least the next few seasons, or have to look at him as a trade asset. And so to see that he came back and is looking good, I think he holds a spot in the roster. Can't wait to see what he can do next year with a full healthy season. Next positive, number two, Debo. I think Debo's been a good addition to the team, somewhat underutilized, also somewhat probably hurt by having changes at quarterback. Um, just in terms of getting into a rhythm and being on a new team and finding that connection. I thought him and Jaden Daniels had flashes of it. Him and Mariota actually ended up really gelling well. So I wonder what a full, set of games of maybe at least like 12 games of Jaden and Debo would look like next year. I think we also need to utilize him in the running game and in the flat more. We did a lot of lateral passing to him, so just more of that. And I think it adds another dimension to our offense. And we can even line up with different schemes and look like we're going to do that. And then, throw the ball downfield to Terry. Um, where I think we have a concern that we need to address immediately is at the position of tight end on offense. Zach Ertz has been a great servant to the franchise, but unfortunately did suffer a terrible injury. He's also at that point in his career where he's going to be considering, do I come back from that? Um, and is it worth it? Is it worth it? After the illustrious career he's had, I wouldn't fault him for hanging up his boots. And even if he does come back, I think we need to be looking at the future of that position, especially to support Jaden Daniels, not only as a tight end being a blanket as a passing option for a quarterback, but the benefit of having a tight end who can also block and help protect. Um, is just something that can help keep Jaden healthy and on the field even more. Our running game looks great. I like all three of our backs. Our depth there is good. Dan Quinn, I have not lost faith in. And speaking about our coaching staff, we recently got rid of our offensive coordinator, our defensive coordinator, and then also our offensive line coach. Um, and to me, that points to what I was mentioning with the tight end too. The Our mindset really has to be how can we protect our investment in Jaden, and keep him on the field for as long as possible. And unfortunately, in a combination of him taking some unnecessary risks, the team taking unnecessary risks and playing him, and the offensive line not giving him enough time or protection, he suffered a lot of injuries this year. And that truly is what I think hindered the season to the biggest degree. And what we really need to focus on is having a really good off season with Jaden, letting him fully heal up, and focusing to build from there. Our defense, I think, is severely underperforming, and I think we need to have a much stronger defensive identity. Um, Across the board, I think we need more depth, and we also just need better players overall. Um, Aside from what defensive coordinator comes in, we know Dan Quinn's background as a defensive coach. He's likely going to have a lot of influence either way on the defense. And then it just comes into, for me, finding the right offensive coordinator who can really do creative things with all of the pieces that I just mentioned. And I think that if I'm a candidate who either just got out of a head coaching role or has been looking for an offensive coordinator role, why would you not want to take on this offense, and see what you
Hmm.
can do? Because I think at the offense where we're built to compete, especially if we're healthy. And I think we can shoot out with the best of them. But I think what's really going to make a difference for us next year is if we can take the next step with our defense, and as our offense performs and gives us a lead, not give it up and not have to score 40 plus points to win a game. I think once we can get our defense to put us in that place, that's when we can truly succeed. And again, I don't think realistically it wouldn't surprise me if we have a swing of 5 more wins compared to what we did this year, just because of us being the NFC Championship team from last year. And
Hmm.
the reality is that the NFL, there's not that much of a gap between a lot of these teams, where there's certain breaks in everyone's season where it can go completely left or right. And for the Commanders in 2025, a lot went left, but there were lessons in that. And I hope that Dan Quinn, can really find the right staff to help support him, so that way next year we can have a much better season, looking at, options in the draft. With what we have, we should be able to add some ready to play assets as well as future prospects. And that should just be the ultimate mission of the franchise right now. Um, it sucks because of how good of a season we had last season to show up like this. But again, I think our focus should be on the long term. Um, if we have a run of 4 to 5 years of winning seasons with Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn, this will be just a forgotten memory of a season. And I think that's where the focus needs to be, to really, push this franchise and what we already have established and built in the right direction. And I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I'll pass it over to you boys to, drop any comments or also just give transition to the Steelers.
No, man. I mean, I think you did a good job kind of covering season in a whole as a whole. The biggest thing I thought, going for you guys was Kingsbury not returning in.
Mhm.
Um, I wonder what that's going to look like for you guys. Obviously, there's no shortage of coaching options out there, as we'll get into later on in the segment. But you could potentially get a guy like a Mike McDaniel, who could really help your offense a lot, just as much as Kingsbury did, if not more. I don't think that was ever the problem with him in Miami. So that can obviously be a number one option, especially if he's not looking to be a head coach next season and wanting to go back to be more of a coordinator like he was with the 49ers. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I overall really like the offense, just the players and acquisitions that you guys had. Debo definitely kind of um, really bringing a little bit of fresh air to his career again, breathing life into it. Like he's a little JoJo reference, Giorno Giovanna. But yeah, he breathed a little bit more life into his career. I think a lot of people saw him as injury prone, especially the last couple of years in San Francisco. Steve really had a lot to say, but if we had Ace on the show, Ace had him in fantasy. Be like, oh, he's washed, he's washed. He's always performing in fantasy when you need him to. So um, definitely really helped another weapon outside of Terry McLaurin, especially since McLaurin didn't play most of the year due to injury. So that really helped out a lot. Um, yeah, sad injury to Zach Ertz, one of my favorite tight ends over the past 10 years, 12 years. And so it's really sad to kind of see him go out like that. And like you said, it's kind of at that point, does he come back? Is it
Yeah.
even worth coming back? Type of thing. Just, 37 years old, not really want to at that age.
I wouldn't
And
blame him.
maybe
He
he,
hung it up.
yeah, I
Yeah.
won't blame him. I won't blame him either. And maybe he says he wants to just because he wants to end it on his own terms, which that's also respectable. We've seen plenty of guys do that too. But I would hope maybe he just says, "Hey, I won a Super Bowl. I've had a successful career, like one of the top 25 tight ends of all time, 20 tight ends of all time." Yeah, is it really that big of a deal? So, but yeah, the changes in the offseason, I'm really looking forward to. Dan Quinn has been a solid coach these past 2 seasons, even with everything that's happened all year. I think the only biggest thing, is the fact of how he managed Jayden during the injury and, just kind of scaring the franchise and making you wonder, oh, it's a repeat of Robert Griffin. But I do think he's going to be cautious in the future. I think after there was even the scare when he like re-aggravated it, not even an injury, just aggravation, we're shutting you
Yep.
down. I think that opened his eyes. So, I think you'll be smarter about taking care of Jaden and not allowing him to rush back unnecessarily. And I just think to just improving that defense overall, as we were talking about before the show, even though Von Miller was on the team, Von Miller was great and definitely is going to be a Hall of Famer, but not a guy, rely on your pass rush either. Your front four, when it's fully healthy, is really good. but maybe you need to bolster things like in the secondary. I saw a stat. I think Mike's Sharon Sartle is. I think he gave up the third most or the fourth most receiving yards, 832, something like that. Um, and there was another person in your secondary. I think they were number two that gave up around like 900. So it's just kind of one of those things where you're like, okay, maybe the secondary does need improvement. But shout out to Bobby Wagner, 2,000 tackles for his career. London Fletcher, the Redskins. Sorry for those who maybe only know them as Commanders, but the Redskins legend, London Fletcher, one of the most underrated middle linebackers of the time, had to shout out Bobby Wagner. So for his 2,000 tackles in his career, which he's the only third person to ever do that. So I'm really looking forward to see what you guys can do. I mean, I think last year wasn't a fluke. You guys get into the AFC Championship. I think, as young as this team is, with the talent, the coaching on this staff, the future's still bright. Your window's wide open, especially in the NFC East. Even though it's getting a little more competitive, there's going to be changes in New York. Are they going to be able to ride that wave and change immediately? Something like a team like the Patriots did this year, or even Cowboys. Are they going to get the right pieces in to really help them, or is it going to be another season of Jerry's just being more entertainment than successful? It's going to be interesting to see what the 2027 season is going to be like. But yeah, I don't think you guys can look at the season truly as a failure. There's good things and some bad things that I think can be easily corrected. So
Oh yeah. Bring me my draft picks.
Yeah, I know I was super excited about this team at the beginning of the season, and if you followed the show last season, you would have seen that we were constantly praising them, especially early on, even when they lost Jaden for a little bit and lost some games. We figured that he'd be able to come back and the team would bounce back and have that late surge. But it just really shows that in football, nothing is guaranteed. I mean, you think that you're going to be back at the NFC Championship game and you can't even qualify for the playoffs because not everyone is Coach T, Mike Tomlin, over there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And shouts to Coach T, who defied the odds. I remember when the Bills came into town and the fan base was chanting "Fire Tomlin," and now we were a missed field goal away from maybe seeing that happen, but we'll never know. And Coach T at the end of that game said, "Just watch," meaning, well, I'll show you, what this team's capable of. And they've won 4 of the last 5 games. It hasn't been pretty, especially the game in Cleveland, where it seemed like the team was more interested in preventing Myles Garrett from getting the record than winning the game itself. It was a roller coaster ride. I think it was the game against the Steelers and the Ravens on Sunday Night Football as the last game of the year for the regular season. And it was a roller coaster of emotions. The game starts off with a long Derrick Henry 41-yard rush as the first play from line of scrimmage. And it looks like, wow, we're just going to have another repeat of what happened last year in the playoffs last January. And it's Derrick Henry's birthday. Lamar just came back off of injury, the back contusion. Seems like all the stars are aligned for the Ravens. They go down there, scored a touchdown, and things are looking bleak. But the team, give credit to the Steelers. They clawed back, kept it, mucked the game up, kept it close. Typical Pittsburgh Steelers football. Make the game as close as possible, and then shine when you need to late in the game. But it was full of drama. 2 Zay Flowers touchdowns that were busted coverages by the Steelers defense. which put the Ravens up late in the fourth quarter. And then Aaron Rodgers hits Calvin Austin for the game-winning touchdown. And Rodgers on the presser afterwards talked about how in the huddle he wasn't sure. He attributed it to either Fryermuth or Frazier or someone in the huddle had told Calvin to go cook him, and he cooked him with the hitch and go and caught the defender in ice skates, and he couldn't make it down there to the end zone, and the rest is history. And then on the drive right after that, um, Chris Boswell, the Steelers kicker, gets the kick blocked for the extra point. So the Steelers are only up two. And then the Steelers defense and special teams collapse and sell. They sell the whole team. It looked like they sold everything. There was a long return that put them within reach of field goal range. And then on a 4th and 6, Lamar Jackson does what Lamar Jackson does and puts it in position for his skill players to make the play. And Isaiah Likely catches a great high point ball over the Steelers secondary. A ball that I thought Jalen Ramsey should have easily either batted down or picked it off himself. But it didn't happen. Everything looked bleak. And then Tyler Lute misses that field goal. I feel bad for the young rookie. But when you're kicking over there on the North Shore in Acrisure, it's not easy. That's for sure.
It's not easy.
It's not easy, especially with the playoffs on the line. And I'm still speechless from the game. It's a miracle. You would think that if
Father bless the end zone.
yeah, there was the man with the holy
He
water.
had something for him.
Yeah, he had the holy water going in the end zone. I'll have to find that and pull that up. And he blessed it, and then yeah, the rest is history. Ball went that way, and Mike Tomlin lives to fight another day. And you hear it from the players after the game. I mean, we did this for the coach,
Yeah.
and you put some juxtaposition and compare it to what Lamar and all of them are saying after the game. Lamar's like, I can't even think about that. I can't. I just processed this. We know that at least in the Steelers locker room. I mean, if they would defend coach, I think even if they wanted him gone, at least publicly, they would never just not acknowledge the elephant in the room there. So a couple days later, Harbaugh fired, and no longer with the Ravens. Looks like he is one of the leading candidates for the Giants job. The Miami job, is open now, is vacant. And there's I think 6 or 7 vacancies for Harbaugh to move on to. I'm sure he'll find employment. And all the Ravens have to do the hard part, which is go find you a head coach. So
I have a question for the two of you before we get into kind of our thoughts on the playoff matchups. For Mike Tomlin, with yet another winning season in the books, does this, at this point, cement him as the best black coach of all time in the NFL? And I think realistically, the question that I'm asking is, can we put Mike Tomlin above Tony Dungy at this point? And there are plenty of other great black coaches, but I think amongst in NFL history, it's between those two.
Probably say he needs. I would maybe say he needs another Super Bowl, another tie for Super Bowls. Tony has one.
Longevity-wise, he has that, but I would agree, Tony Dungy was
He has he has more and he has more playoff success than Tomlin. That's my other thing. And you can make an argument that it's Peyton Manning, but I just think like the playoff success there just doesn't matter who you have. You got to perform. And I mean, Tomlin had the killer couldn't even get to a Super Bowl with the Killer Bees. And, he was at least Tony Dungy was able to get to multiple AFC championships, just maybe have lost to the Patriots, always like a weird little fluke thing. So I still would give it to
10
Tony.
consecutive playoff appearances for Tony Dungy.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I was
consistent.
Yeah, very consistent. So I still would just give it to him. I think Tomlin would need to win another Super Bowl to really solidify him over. Because, while Tomlin has coached longer and has had no losing season, it's still this whole thing of, there's only one Super Bowl out of it, 2 Super Bowl appearances. I think that's the one thing, oh, no, Dungy went to 2 well and lost one. So, it's just, like I said, I think it's a nice debate, but I think with the overall playoff success, I would have to give it to Tony Dungy for now.
Their records are actually very close. So Tony Dungy 139 wins and 69 losses. Tomlin is 140 wins, 74 losses, and a tie.
Yeah.
Regular seasons are pretty similar.
I mean, he's definitely a Hall of Fame coach. But yeah, Quay, what do you think of what the Hall of Fame coach here did for not just this season, but for was this a legacy win for Tomlin?
Well, we talked about it before the show, and I've had this conversation with my brother, and my parents. At least my mom couldn't believe it when I mentioned it. She's like, "I don't think they would have," and I said, "No, no, no, no. Both of those coaches, John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, were fighting for jobs week 18 at Acrisure Stadium for Sunday Night Football. They were, regardless if you want to say, oh no, Tomlin would have had another winning season and all this stuff. It doesn't matter. We went all in for different things that he wanted, that we set up, and we had a clear, definitive lock on the season, and then we had gave it up. There's no reason we should even have been in this, and our fate was in our hands 2 weeks ago. When we should have beat the Browns, and this wouldn't have been even competition. We could have. Tyler Luke could have made the field goal and been like, lost the game, but hey, we're going to the playoffs. But no, this was literally like, oh my gosh, we're about to lose this and like not make it to the playoffs. Tomlin would have been, as we talked about it, not fired, but once the season was completely over, talking about playoffs, Super Bowl, everything, we would have saw news of there being, a mutual parting of ways. There's disputing that, as we saw with Harbaugh, because Harbaugh's in a very similar situation. Furthermore, like continuing on what we talked about early on, the Steelers and the Ravens are essentially a mirror. For those who have watched football over the past 25 years, you know exactly what I am. So essentially, essentially since the turn of the millennia. I mean, we could even say like since the late 90s. We'll go to the turn of the
Okay,
So
the Ravens came in 2000. So yeah.
Yes. So here we go. Turn of the millennia. This is an organization that came in. It was essentially already like became a mirror copy of us. Strong defense, no real quarterback. Because look at their quarterback at the time and look at our quarterback at the time. Tommy Maddox and Cordell Stewart. They had Trent Dilfer. There you go. This was a team that was able to go to a Super Bowl off the strength of their defense early on. Ray Lewis, one of the greatest middle linebackers ever. Ray Allen, one of the greatest shooters. Maybe Ray Lewis is also a great shooter, but we're not going to.
I think
The Chargers.
He might be better with a bleed, I hear.
But going here, the Ravens have always, the reason why we've always had such a strong competitive matchup with them is because we match up so well on both sides of the ball. you look at it. We have always had a strong, tough receiver in Hines Ward. They had their tough, strong receiver Derek Mason. Then a nice, solid tight end Todd Heath Miller. Solid running back, great running back. You know, you had Jamal Lewis at one point. We had Jerome Bettis, and then they start to kind of get different running backs in there. We had Willie Parker. They had Willis McGahee. We had Rashard Mendenhall. They had McGahee a little bit longer, but then Ray Rice emerged. You know, similar. Like it's always been this team where, and then they get an above-average quarterback with Flacco, while we had our eventual Hall of Fame quarterback in Roethlisberger. Like I said, very, very comparable. Even the way the franchises have gone, where Mike Tomlin gets hired, no real coaching history. Yeah, he's been an assistant. He was a coordinator for one season with the Vikings, but then boom. The same thing with Harbaugh. No real like crazy definitive coaching history outside of like his background with football and his name tied to like his brother as well too. And so boom, you get these two coaches, both get a Super Bowl, um, both have winning seasons, although Harbaugh has had losing seasons, which I think has given him a little credibility, to be able to change and then get to the Lamar Jackson era. If they would have held on to Joe Flacco a little bit longer, who knows what. But he got fired, even though there's been more success as of late. And Tomlin has been able to hold on, even though he's been going 10 years without a playoff victory. Why did Harbaugh get fired, even though he's had playoff success? Because of how they lost. It's because of the potential of this team and the fact that for whatever reason, there's never enough. They can never do enough. There's always weird blunders for them to get to the big dance. And it's always been fluky. You can say it's not Harbaugh's fault completely, which I can say certain things, yes. But then there's games you watch and it seems like they go away from a certain plan. Doesn't Derrick Henry have the ball 30 times certain games? I'm not saying every single game has to carry the ball 30 times, but there's definitely certain games where, maybe that should be the game plan and they don't do it. Sometimes they start out that way. And then next thing you know, in the second half, he'll go the first half with 20 carries. Second half only have 5. And it's like, tell me he's that tired? Is that why you didn't use him? Which that's not the case. He's highly conditioned. He hasn't really lost a step whatsoever at the age of 32 as a running back. So I don't know what was going on there, but at some point, it's just time. And I felt like it would have been the same thing for Tomlin. And Tomlin honestly still has a short leash. Depending on what happens here, this Monday against the Texans, if they do not have a great performance, um, he will be let go. I think we will say, hey, we should cut this. And even if he has a great performance, I could say they probably would still say maybe we need to go in another direction. Just because 10 years without a playoff win, I said it a couple weeks ago on a show, and plenty of other people on live, national segments said the same thing. How many sports could a coach go 10 years without playoff success and still have their job? So
I think
Tomlin, in my opinion, has to at least get to the divisional round and have a successful showing in a divisional round of the playoffs. Doesn't have to win, but it has to be a very competitive. And wow, that was if the Steelers just made one more play, that would have been great. Tomlin back to AFC Championship, and then who knows what would happen. It has to be that type of game in order for them to say definitively we're keeping you for like another season as our head coach.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And for me, the difference that I think that I want to point out too between the Harbaugh and Tomlin situations is for um, Tomlin, there isn't an MVP caliber superstar that when there is disappointing results, he's fielding questions from the media, pressure of,
Hmm.
hey, if you're one of the top five guys in the league, how are you not leading your team to victory? What's causing you from not leading your team to victory? And I would argue
Hmm.
for Harbaugh and the Ravens, not only do you have Lamar, but you went out and you got Derrick Henry, which is also arguably two MVP caliber guys who are going to be looking to bring in silverware. And when you have a losing season, the pressure is going to be on them. And then the pressure is also going to be on the people who brought them in and to say, why aren't you getting the best out of them? And I think for Tomlin, he has kind of done like uh he's like the best pound for pound team. He gets the most out of his guys in that sense.
Hmm.
And it almost kind of does absolve him of a little bit of pressure and fault also in the process. Um, whether that's fair as a Steelers fan or not, I can also understand a gripe or frustration with that, but I also think ownership of these billion-dollar businesses have an understanding of what tools they're giving to someone to perform a job. Um, and the front offices, general managers, etc., have an understanding of that. And when you have a coach who can year after year consistently give you winning seasons and you have a amazing fan base that's generating money, I don't, from an ownership perspective, I don't see why you would move away from that. And I think that's the longevity that he's been able to establish. And Harbaugh has had a great run with the Ravens, but again, I think just that Lamar's feeling the pressure of, hey, why aren't you performing and winning every year? So right now, it's the answer is one of them had to go, and I think
Hmm.
in this case, it does make sense for Harbaugh to move on. But yeah, I think again, it just comes down to that relationship with the person who's now leading the locker room, and I don't. That's not to say that I think Lamar and Harbaugh's relationship is completely severed forever, but I think there's a mutual understanding of like, hey, we need to try something new with Lamar in Baltimore, and
Hmm.
Harbaugh can go build a whole fresh new journey from there. And I think realistically, them as a pair have had some misfortune that held them back from really getting a big late playoff run. And this is the result of that, just long term. If a couple of those playoff runs against Patrick Mahomes go different, honestly, just one, then maybe Harbaugh gets the opportunity of a Tomlin like longevity. And that's what happens when you win a Super Bowl and when you deliver on stuff like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Harbaugh was the second longest tenured coach in the NFL, only behind Mike Tomlin. And Coach T, for all the jokes of 9-8, and some of us have probably seen the AI slop of the Pixar looking movie called 9-8. Tomlin has
Those are
only
so hilarious.
Tomlin has only been 9-8 once since the NFL moved to the 17 game format. 10-7s for 3 straight seasons. But I think what really bothers people about the teams lately, even if you look at this table right now and look at the offensive and defensive rankings, they're all in the double digits, meaning that they're in closer to the bottom half of the league. And the only thing that's really helping this team year in and year out is the turnover category. Fourth in turnover
Hmm.
giveaway ratio, second last year, third the year before that. So the team is just a turnover merchant, and that's how they win a lot of games. The problem is you can't rely on a TJ Watt interception, strip sack, fumble every single game to get you that short field. You need to be able to produce offense on your own. And it looked like Aaron Rodgers when he was calling the plays out there and when he was instilling confidence and hope in his teammates like Calvin Austin and Pat Fryermuth. It looked like it was working. And I don't know if you guys remember from the game, but there was a point where the communication in the helmet wasn't working anymore. And he's yelling at the sideline like that he can't hear anything. And he
Mm-hmm.
switches the helmet, and the helmet he switched to still didn't work. And he ended up burning the timeout, which could have been costly later. But after the game at the presser, Aaron Rodgers says that the timeout wasn't that valuable. I mean, they just needed a touchdown there. There was no other option, or at least in his eyes, there was no other way other than burning that timeout. And then I think ended up kicking a field goal on that particular possession. But it's the aggressive mentality that you've seen over the last couple of weeks from Tomlin and company that have always been the criticism of his coaching style is that he's always very conservative. And the last couple of weeks, I mean, he looks like Dan Campbell out here going for it on fourth down. He's willing to take 0 points at the end of the second half. Tomlin last year easily would have kicked the field goal. Probably still would have won the game either way. But I wonder if this change of mentality is because of the signal caller he has. He has Aaron Rodgers, former MVP, and he had a season high in passing yards this weekend. So Aaron Rodgers is going to get his favorite target back, DK Metcalf, who's serving a 2-game suspension at the end of the year. And if things played out differently, we could be talking about Tomlin getting fired. We could be talking about DK Metcalf and how much blame he has for the Steelers season ending prematurely. But now it's a brand new season, and the Steelers are going to be playing the Houston Texans on Monday Night Football, where I believe Tomlin has a crazy record on Monday Night Football. I don't think the Steelers have lost a Monday Night Football game at home since 1991. And that was before Bill Cowher. That was Chuck Noll. So that was a long time ago there. So is that record going to come to an end? Maybe. The Houston Texans have also never won a playoff road game where you're going into cold weather either. So a lot of first times might happen this weekend. I think that
And it
game will
feels
be
like the
pretty
worst.
exciting. They got great pass rushers, the Texans, great cornerbacks. It's going to be, I think, a headache for Aaron Rodgers and company. I think he's going to have to lean on his tight ends, lean on his running backs like he has all year. I think the player within the playoffs for this Pittsburgh Steelers team, if they can get Kenny Gainwell up and running, I think they're going to be a hard team to beat. If you go and watch the tape of the Ravens game from this weekend, I mean, anytime Kenny Gainwell touches the ball, he's making one or two people miss, and then they give it to Jalen Warren as well. Self proclaimed pain and gain. That's kind of nickname that they were giving Gainwell and Jalen Warren here. So, and then on defense, I
Like
mean,
that.
Highsmith, I mean, the Zay Flowers touchdown the first touchdown, the long touchdown, I mean, Highsmith basically has him in his hand. And I think either Keanu or someone else on the defensive
Yeah, it was
line
Keanu
too,
Benton.
and
Yeah,
both of
Keanu
them
Benton.
miss, and Lamar splits them, and he just tosses up to Zay, and then you see Patrick Queen out there guarding a wide receiver in space, and you knew it was over. And it's not his fault. I mean, that the play's not supposed to be going on that long. That should have easily been a sack. It should have been a turnover on downs, and it could have been a whole different story. But instead, it gave the Ravens confidence, and Lamar played like an MVP. And he played. It was great TV. It was great television. This is why sports is the best reality TV. You can't make that up. There's no script that can make that game up, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's my thoughts on the game, and then this Texans game. I think the Steelers have the potential to win it. I think, like I said, the odds aren't really in our favor in terms of is this an offensive team that could score on this really tough defense, or is this a defense that can stop CJ Stroud and company? I don't know about that, but I do know that it's going to be loud in Acrisure this weekend on Monday night. It's going to be crazy here, and win or lose, I think the fans are going to come out. What do you think, Quay? Steelers going to win this weekend? They're going to upset the Texans. I believe they're like a 3 point underdog against the Texans this weekend at home.
I think we win. Um, I think we win because um, of who our signal caller is, as you mentioned. I think if this was like years past, I mean, I'll give Mason Rudolph actually a lot of credit. Yeah, the Bills defense that year, nothing like the Texans defense that we're getting ready to go against. But I give Mason Rudolph a lot of credit for his performance against the Bills. Um, he played very, very well. And if certain things didn't happen, George Pickens fumble early on in the game, just different things, we probably could have won that. But in situations like this, having a signal caller like Aaron Rodgers, which we've seen when we perform our best around him, which will be pretty much at full power, which kind of the first time we've been at a complete full power offense, and like an offense that has a true identity and understanding of its strengths and weaknesses. We kind of rounded out some things where we brought in guys I think can make plays when we need them, i.e., like an Adam Thielen. I think he's been one of the better signings that we've had, late in the season, where he can do the things that Aaron Rodgers needs, especially, let's say, if the play starts to break down. Adam Thielen he's a good receiver in getting open and finding space that a quarterback is looking for. Getting Calvin Austin back adds some speed and quickness to the offense again, and he's very underrated. When he's very underrated as our de facto number two. He truly is our number two wide receiver. And then getting DK back is only going to be beneficial. And I think the loss of Darnell Washington really helped in certain ways. As much as I missed the guy, I think we kind of made up for that by having 3 tight end sets with Spencer Anderson being out there as the third quote unquote tight end, even though he's just another left tackle. But I think it's helped with like Freiermuth getting the ball more. Made some big plays over the middle, which I think that's where most of the season. Um, and to take advantage of this Texans team, which doesn't really have any hold on their defense, they have great linebackers, great pass rush. You can maybe get a little bit going in the run game, but even then, they have a stout run defense as well. So I think the X factor for this game is going to be a Kenny Gainwell, running back who can keep a defense honest, because we do a couple play actions, get him on some slip screens, get him on some motion, misdirection type of things. This is something you're going to have to do with a defense that's fast, that's very defensively sound. You're going to have to do things to kind of get them to second guess themselves, to get them to react just a second late, so we can get some movement on offense. But I think DK is always a mismatch on the offense, and so I think that's going to help open things up with him coming back. And we'll see. It's going to be a tight game, I think.
Yeah.
Regardless, the one thing that does have it was defense. Texans have that, but I do think overall, with it being a colder game, being at home, I think the fans are really excited. I even think most of the fandom thinks we can potentially win this game. But I do think it's going to be one of those nail biter type games, 17-13 type of game, 17-16, 2016 type of thing.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't be surprised if it's close. That's for sure. So we should go on and preview all of these games. So let's get our picks there for that Steelers and Texans game here. So what are we thinking there, Quay? So you're saying Steelers are going to beat the Texans
2016.
20-16. All right. How about you, Randy? What do you think? Steelers, Texans.
I'm gonna go 20, 24 to 21 Steelers.
24-21 Steelers. Wow. Yeah, I think this is going to be a 27-24. And I think this is going to be the Texans win.
Texans win.
I think the Texans will upset, or I guess it's not an upset. They're the favorite, but they're going to upset that Tomlin Monday Night Football record there. I got the bracket up here. Let's take a look at
Yeah,
some of the other teams here that we got. How about that Patriots and Chargers game? You know, Drake May, potential MVP candidate. They've been kind of the surprise team in the league this year, them and the Broncos, I think. And then the Chargers, who I think coming into the season, people were high on this team, and they look like a team that could be dangerous as well. They got weapons on both sides, playmakers on both sides. Randy, what do you think the Patriots versus the Chargers?
I'll take New England, and I will put them at let's go 34 New England, and for the Chargers, we will go with 27.
Yeah, I have something similar there, the 35-37 New England. How about you, Quay?
I actually have this one being a close one too. I but not as high scoring. I have this one being 23-17, and I'm actually going Chargers with the upset.
Wow, 23-17 Chargers.
17-38.
How about the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Buffalo Bills, which is pretty funny because, the Buffalo Bills, one of the Super Bowl contenders, Super Bowl favorites coming into this season. They at times they haven't looked too good, and in other games they look like they could be the best team in the league. Meanwhile, this Jaguars team over the last 8 weeks have been arguably the best team in the league. Seems like Trevor Lawrence is that first round draft pick that we all envisioned when he was picked out of college. They're out here putting up 30 plus, 40 plus points on teams. Quay, who do you have here? Is Josh Allen going to steal and upset the Jacksonville Jaguars here en route to his first Super Bowl? Or are we going to see the Jaguars, same business as usual over the last couple of weeks, put up enough offense to beat any team in the NFL?
No, I think this is going to be, but I do think this is going to be a shootout type game here. I think Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen, they play pretty similarly. They throw the ball, get touchdowns, and they can run touchdowns here. I think it's gonna be a game that's probably gonna come down to who has it. It's actually one of the few games I think it's gonna be a true shootout. And I have the Bills winning this game here, and I'm going 33-27.
How about you, Randy? Who do you got in this matchup?
I got the Bills winning, but Trevor Lawrence did find his aura. I just think that the Jacksonville Jaguars play a little bit too sloppier with mistakes, and I think that will catch up to them in this matchup against the Bills. But I also can't discount that they're going to be at home, and this franchise has not had many opportunities to be this good. And boy, are the Bills cursed. But if anyone can break that curse, it's Josh Allen. I think looking across the playoff board, I see no Patrick Mahomes. I see no Lamar Jackson. If I'm Josh
Mhm.
Allen, I just put a baby in Haley and I'm finna win a Super Bowl. That's my mindset, and I think that's my pick for pushing in the AFC. But yeah, Buffalo win, and I think it's going to be probably at least a 10-point margin. So I'll go 28-17.
28-17, and I have Buffalo winning 42-35 against Jacksonville. And the other Saturday game that's happening, or the Saturday game that's happening this weekend, the Rams go and visit the Carolina Panthers, who won the division, the NFC South, which arguably is the worst division in football this year. The Rams getting somewhat MVP play from Matthew Stafford. They have a lot of weapons: Puka, Devontae, Kyron Williams, and lots of weapons on offense, and the defense has been solid at times. Randy, who do you have here? Is Carolina going to upset the Rams? I know they're at home, but are they going to beat the team with the better record, or do we look like the Rams here are going to move forward to the divisional round?
I think the Rams end up clutching this up. Matthew Stafford, a Super Bowl champion, I think he leads his team to victory here, and I'm pushing for Rams. Let's say, fuck it. Let's say 42. Carolina. I think they get cooked kind of bad here. So we'll do 42-21.
Yeah, I have a double digit lead on them too. 28-10 Rams. Quay, what do you have?
30-13 Rams.
All right. How about over there in Chicago, NFC North divisional game matchup here versus the Packers and the Bears in the Windy City. The Packers, who been resting their starters after they were blown out by the Ravens the week before that. It's a team that looks like they at times look like the best team in the league, other times look like a team that's trending downward. The Bears, similar story at times. They can look flaky, but they have learned to win games this season under Ben Johnson. Quay, who do you have here? The Bears hosting the Packers.
I love Ben Johnson. I do. It's really, really good coach. Great offensive mind. I I don't want to give it to him yet, and so I have to choose the Packers here. It's going to be a close game, though. I think this is going to be a close game, somewhat of a semi shootout. Um, but I think this game is going to end 27-20 Packers.
27-20 Packers. I have the Packers winning
27-23 Packers.
27-23 Packers. I have the Packers winning 20-17. Randy, who do you have here in the NFC North matchup?
I'm gonna go with the Packers getting the W. I'm gonna predict um 20 to 14 win for the Packers. I think it's gonna be a snow game, so it's gonna be a gritty battle of trying to establish the run game and not turn over the ball.
What was the score again?
Like that's good.
20 to 14
20 to
Packers.
14
I like that.
Packers. And then the last game that we haven't picked yet, the Niners and the Eagles. I have the Eagles winning 28-21. Quay, what do you have there for our last matchup there in the NFC?
I got 49ers actually winning that one 24-20.
How about you, Randy? What do you think? Eagles at home
I
or
think Fi-
Niners?
I think Philly takes it. I don't think it's pretty though. I think they lame out with the tush push probably a little bit. And I see it potentially being, let's see, um, 30 for Philly to San Fran's 24.
30-24. So just to go over it again, all of us have, or no, for the, excuse me, for the Eagles at home hosting the Niners. I got the Eagles winning, or me and Randy got the Eagles winning. Quay got the Niners winning. Packers at Bears. All of us have the Packers winning that one. Um, Rams at Carolina. We all have Carolina losing that one. Buffalo at Jacksonville. All of us have faith in Buffalo. I guess we're not convinced that Jacksonville's the truth just yet. Um, we all think that, or no, me and Randy think the Pats are going to go on and beat the Chargers. Quay has the lone pick there. And then you two have Steelers winning. And then I have them losing to the Texans on Monday night. And that's it. That's the end of our show. And happy wildcard weekend to everyone celebrating their team in the playoffs. And I hope everyone has a lot of fun there watching some playoff football. As always, take it off with the spiel. Uh, any of you guys have any comments before we head out?
Yeah, I can go real quick on my spiel on international football. Um, the Premier League has passed 20 games in the season. For those that don't know, it's 38 games total. Arsenal are still in the lead. Two of our top six teams have now fired their coaches. January is the beginning of the transfer window, so we'll start to see some players get bought by teams moving around. Exciting season here. We'll see if Arsenal can hold on. Manchester City is looking to buy a few players and form up like Voltron and chase them down. Again, still a World Cup year here, so African Cup of Nations is also ongoing. We're going to the quarterfinals of that. Players are really just looking to establish themselves within the national teams, and play well. You want to get noticed between now and the next 3 to 5 months, so that way you get selected for the World Cup squad. And yeah, that's it.
Nice, nice. I'm gonna be real quick with mine. Personal real spiel for the peeps. Happy New Year, happy restart. To everything. Um, for those, depending on what you celebrate, happy holidays as well. I hope it was a good one and all that. As we go into a new cycle and things start to, enter into a new. I hope that we all, you evolve, metamorph a little bit, anamorph, a little bit. That's a little a call back to the Animorphs for those who don't know. But no, honestly though, just take the time, just kind of reflect on the things that did go well last year, and then look to this year and say, what do I want to improve and be better about, and focus on those things. Stay positive. Should be all about growth. No doubt, Russell Wilson, we're going to shout him out there. But we're going to say 2026 is the year of, no complaints. Even when it gets tough, we just keep striving, we keep pushing. I'm doing a dry January, sugars, getting back into working out. I want to get back to the best shape of my life, bulk up a little bit, get back into football. Got some goals here, want to travel a little bit more. So I'm going to make those things happen. So if you want it to happen, just make it happen. So we're doing all 2026. But just going to talk about the NBA real fast. The turn of the year, we've had some crazy things. After the defending champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder, started out the year 24-1. They have just been 7-6 over the past 13 games. It has looked really crazy. Out of those games, they lost to the San Antonio Spurs 3 times in the past 12 days. Um, pretty crazy. Wimby, that's my goat. I love that dude right now. He's definitely the future goat of the league.
Alien.
He's only going to get better. True alien. He's only going to get better. They seem to have the kryptonite. They seem to be the kryptonite for the Oklahoma City Thunder, but other teams have kind of started to figure them out too. I think it stems from the fact that as great as this team is, they do not have a traditional point guard, and because of that, they do not have the best half court offense. So a lot of times, it's about ISO and trying to score in the mid range with Shea, or hoping something, they get a turnover and they can produce in transition. Whether that's off of a three, a slash to the basket, or anything like that. That's where they're getting the bulk of their points. And I think teams realize you slow them down in terms of half court offense, they do tend to struggle a little bit more. So, but also, I don't think people really thought they could realistically end up being a 74-8, like what they were projected to be after going 24-1. I don't think anyone thought that was realistic. And realistically, do you even want to gas yourself out? It's a sprint. It's a marathon, not a sprint here. So I think this team is totally fine. Their season's not over by any means. They're just getting healthy. They'll figure it out. And then Trae Young being traded really to the Wizards. He requested that. I think
I want to get
the
traded to the
Hawks.
Wizards.
I know, doesn't seem like the best trade, but hey, he wants to be in DC. And I think the Hawks as well. They were producing with this young core that they have now. Jalen Johnson is one of the better young talents. I mean, a walking triple double almost every single night. Onyeka is doing really great as well. Yeah, this team has a young Dyson Daniels, great defender. This team is just on a different trajectory. I think Trae Young also wants to kind of be somewhere where he again is just kind of the guy that has the ultimate green light and can turn around a culture. And the Wizards, they are very young. They're going to have some draft picks, and they're going to want a superstar like Trae Young who can draw people in. So we'll see what ends up happening over the next couple of years. This is definitely going to be a project thing for the Wizards. It's not Trae Young doesn't solve all their problems. They have plenty of other problems here, but I do think this helps the Hawks getting some better in leadership and 3-point spacing with both CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. And so they can potentially hold one of those 5 to 8 spots, that 5th to 8th spot in the East. I think that's kind of where they're shooting for. And so that's just some of the bigger things. Just got that kind of happened since the turn of the year. So long season, as we're approaching All-Star Weekend in about a month. So see what happens and how the standings look, once we get to that All-Star Weekend.
Hey, Trae Young, welcome to death row, nigga.
Come to death row.
Go to death row.
And while I'll give my update of the hometown Pittsburgh Penguins over here in Pittsburgh, PA, winning their game tonight against the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils are currently 6th in the division, where the Pittsburgh Penguins are 4th in division right now. Terms of wins, both these teams are identical, but what's been concerning this year is the Penguins haven't been able to close games with 9 overtime losses. However, tonight was different. Crosby extended his point streak to 8, which is his first 8-game point streak since the 2012 season. And he also surpassed Wayne Gretzky for the second most assists with just one franchise in NHL history. Malkin came back from an injury and scored a power play goal, hoping that this team can turn it around and hopefully get to a push. And we're all hoping that Crosby and Malkin can finally play in the playoffs again. So, to address the elephant in the room, everyone, stay safe, stay vigilant out there, say no to violence in all sorts of forms. And yeah, so keep your head on a swivel. Remember to protect each other, protect your neighbors, protect your community. And that's it for our show. Thanks again for Randy for starting the show off tonight for us. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Quay, as always, contributing with great content. This is the Spiel Sports Talk Show. It's your boy Sal. It's a Muslim signing off here from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Happy New Year's 2026. New season, season 7, the Spiel Sports Talk Show. Don't forget, subscribe, like on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We'll see y'all later. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Peace
Peace out.